Really, it is just a matter of choice because I know it's easier said than done for me to just say, okay, well, just decide to start playing hard defense when you find yourself in autopilot. But that's why I say autopilot is so psychological, because think of the examples of the highest competitors that we've known in terms of basketball intensity. Think of the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants and how it's legendary how competitive they were and how hard they tried in given situations. Like there's so many examples of both Kobe and Jordan where it's not like they themselves, even though they're the greatest in history, they're not immune to occasionally finding themselves being in autopilot as well. There's numerous stories from their opponents saying, you know, yeah, I was playing against Kobe, I was playing against Jordan. They were having an okay game, but they weren't their typical crazily dominating selves. And because of that, my team was actually beating their team. And at halftime, Kobe or Jordan only had 18 points or something. And then in the second half, because we saw our team playing better than them and their team, somebody on the opposing team would start talking trash to Kobe or Michael Jordan. And of course, that would be a major mistake because just in whatever randomness of the game, they were in autopilot for that game for whatever reason, but then somebody talks trash to them and it completely wakes them up. And there's story after story about somebody said something to Jordan or Kobe, and then from there, they go off, they end the game with 48 points, and their team wins, beating their opponent because somebody stupidly started talking trash to them, and thus woke them up out of autopilot, and they became them dominating themselves again. I give that example because that's something that you can do and probably should do out here when you find yourself in autopilot. Since being an intermediate player can be such a grind, it's a good idea to learn and teach yourself how to play those mental kind of games. There's also stories about how Jordan and Kobe would sort of come up with these stories in their minds about how even if an opponent doesn't talk trash to them, they will come up with some kind of idea, story in their mind that somebody did say something, even though nobody actually did. They'll convince themselves that somebody did say something, somebody did talk trash, because it then makes sure it kicks them out of autopilot or makes sure they never go into it in the first place. The way I looked at that was if it's good enough for them, it's definitely good enough for me. So teach yourself how to play those sort of mental games. Teach yourself how to either avoid going into autopilot or kick yourself out of autopilot by you playing the mental game, convincing yourself that there's challenges where there really isn't challenges. There's trash talk where there really isn't trash talk, if you need to. It's small stuff like that that can help to differentiate yourself and the way you play and your ability to play at a higher level from you than your other players on your level, your contemporaries, your opponents, people that don't play those mental games, that don't try to do that don't care about doing that. If you want to play at a higher level, then you gotta teach yourself whatever tips and tricks you can develop for yourself and your psyche to be able to achieve and maintain a higher intensity than everyone else around you. The better you are at evaluating and knowing that you're in autopilot and being able to get yourself out of it or avoid it altogether, and having strategies how to do that when your contemporaries don't, is just another tool in your toolbox to help you be better than that. Let me end by going through this idea of trying to avoid going into autopilot in the first place. Because even you beginner players, you will eventually get to this intermediate level where you find yourself going through this autopilot process and trying to dig your way out or avoid it in the first place.